Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I hope I've pushed all the right buttons here. So today is early February, and Valentine's Day is going to be I think next Monday. So I thought the theme of today would be living courageously from your heart, living in your heart space, living in a space of heartfulness. Now, we talk about, let me, and before we do all that, my name is Peter J. Redding. I am a professional life coach. I've been a coach trainer for the last 26 years now. I'm a coach mentor, coach supervisor, and so on and so forth, right? So I work with individuals that are courageous, living their own courageous life. And today we talk about life, whatever you want to talk about in terms of life. And the idea of courageousness or part of the word of courageous or courageousness is heart, living from the heart, living from your own sense of heartfulness. There's an organization that I dearly love that is named Heartfulness, and I think it's heartfulness.org if I'm not mistaken. They've been around for a long time. They're based out of India, but they're an international, worldwide organization that practices and advocates the benefits of daily meditation. And they always talk about going back to the courageousness or the beauty, the clarity, the infinite, the divine that is within each of us and emanates from our heart. And one of their meditations that I dearly love is the divine resides in my heart. Not just Peter Redding's heart, but your heart, everybody's heart. So I speak a lot about knowing who you are, the core self, the core selfness of yourself. That divine spark, that whole, perfect, complete soul. Some people refer to it as their soul, S-O-U-L. Some people refer to that as their heart, the heart of the matter, the heart of who you are, what you're about. So I'm going to open up the conversation today around, okay, so knowing yourself is one thing. That's I think, the beginning part for me, is who am I? Who am I really? Who did my Creator make me to be? The courageous part is not so much in the knowing it, but living it. Am I being true to myself? Am I being true to my heart space? Am I being true to who I was created to be? And am I living that day to day, hour to hour, minute by minute? And again, truthfully, most of the time I'm unconscious. I'm unconsciously doing that, or at least hopefully I'm doing it, but it's mostly unconscious. When I do think about it, am I being true to myself? It is being true to that sense of divine spark, divine soul. Again, as opposed to, or juxtaposition, Am I living the life that others want me to live? Because earlier in life, it was easier to do that. First of all, I didn't know the difference at all. I was being a good little German Irish descendant boy, right, at 7 years old. I came from hardy stock, is the way that my grandparents would have talked about it. That were coming from laborers and farming backgrounds. We work hard. We don't expect a lot of accolades for that. We take care of our family. We serve our country, etc. Right? That's kind of the paradigm that I am born into or out of. Now, not bad. In fact, very admirable in so many ways. And to be that person, to be from that lineage, there are other things that were expected in terms of A, working hard, B, not expecting to get a lot of accolades or acknowledgments or pats on the back. And so that was also part of that whole part of my lifetime. What it did not address is the individuality of this human being, Peter J. Redding, that comes from that lineage. Thank you, forefathers and foremothers. And at midlife, it was like, okay, so I've been working hard. I have been doing my best to be educated. I've been doing my best to serve my country. I've been doing my best to work hard at serving my organization that I am currently employed by. But there's so many other things that were missing. There's like a hole, HOLE. It's like, okay, so I've done pretty much everything that I was expected to do, expected to be, but I'm still feeling empty inside, right? That began the journey of finding out who am I? Who am I really? Not just who was I born into, not just the fact that I'm in the culture that I am in, the skin that I wear, the time that I was born and all that business. But who am I deep, deep, deep inside of me? So that began my journey. The courageousness was, number one, is to break from the patterns, from the conditionings, from the expectations of my ecosystem at that stage, whether it would be the corporate ecosystem or my familial, my family, my culture, to find out who I was or who I am, who I was created to be. That was courageous in its own right. And I've shared in the past, there have been times during that process, which was for me about a 4 or 5 year process of shedding the things that were not applicable to the core of who I am, and to know who I am. That was courageous in and of itself. But the second part of it was, in the middle of that, is like, this is too damn hard. This is awful. I'm having to make tough decisions and have conversations with people around me that is very unpleasant, and I was not comfortable with and not familiar in being able to do that or even have the language for it. So please, God, give me my utopian bliss of ignorance and put me back into the old paradigm. But that was not an option, truly. But there were times when I prayed for that. Just let me be ignorant about who I am, and let me kind of get along to get along. The courageousness beyond that has been am I outspoken in terms of what I'm here to speak? And I'm here to speak about being your core self. Even when it's tough. Even when it goes against what mom and dad want for me, even when it goes against what I'm supposed to be as again, just whoever you are, right? Your culture, your background. The courageous journey of continuing day to day, hour by hour, minute by minute, to be myself. And revel in that. Own it. Not just own it, but be it. Be whatever it is for that your Creator made you to be. So this idea of, celebrating Valentine's Day coming up, like 6 days from now. It's about the heart. That's the universal symbol of the Valentine's Day, of celebrating the heart in your people that you love. And please start with yourself. Love yourself first, because nobody can love you the way that you need to be loved by yourself. That's a new quote for you, Charles. He loves my quotes. And I have to go back and listen to it myself, because I don't know if I've ever said that. But start with yourself. Love yourself. It's not being hubris. It's not being egotistical. For me, it's an honoring of the divine creation of who I am, who I was created to be. And when I honor that, I honor my God. I honor my deity. I honor my Creator. The courageousness of being myself is a daily process. Am I being myself or not? For me, it's not quite digital, but it could be. It's to what degree am I being myself? Am I being myself 50% of the time, or 50% of my life? Or am I doing that 90%, 95%? So it's something that I keep in mind quite a bit, because this is my work to do. This is clearly my work to do on the planet, is to support individuals to know that they have a divine self, however you define it, however you hold it, whatever spiritual tradition you come out of. I honor all of those when they're life affirming, and I believe that they all are. And then how do I live it? How do I bring it into my primary relationships? How do I bring it into my communications? How do I bring it into my life's work? Am I doing my life's work, or am I doing somebody else's work? So courageousness, courageous to be me. Theme of the day. So who'd like to share about this? So who'd like to say something about what is it for you to be courageous? What is it for you to be your courageous self? Is there examples, recent examples, past experiences from your lifetime of, it was courageous to stand up and let my mom and dad know that I don't want to serve my country. I don't believe in the war that we are currently engaged in. Okay, my generation had that as a major theme. The days of Vietnam, all right? Days of major conflict in this country. Do I serve? Do I not serve? Some of my high school mates chose to go to Canada. They were a conscientious objector to going to Vietnam as a soldier. We have all kinds of issues going on in the world today. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be about war. It doesn't have to be being a soldier, not a soldier. But what are the courageous things that you've had to deal with to claim the reality, the deity of who you are and who you're meant to be? I'd love to hear some of those if you're willing to share those. And if they're highly personal and you don't want to put them out into the public, that's fine. Then we won't share those. We don't share those in this forum, because obviously this is going out live stream right now to YouTube. If you have any comments, for those of you that are in the inner Zoom circle here, it's real time. There's no delay. For those of you that are in YouTube, it's about a 20-second delay. So I don't have that immediately, but we'll get your comments into the Zoom comment box. So let me open that actually. Let me put that over here. So, what does it mean to be your courageous true self? What does that mean to you? How does that manifest for you? I'll put that right there. Go ahead, see some people typing in, I think, right now.
So are we supposed to share and type, Peter?
Arshna, yeah, no, go ahead and you share verbally.
Okay. Good. So I believe being courageous is really an adventure. And in this journey, I have experienced it several times when we want to be true to yourself. So, standing up to what you think and what you feel, particularly in any particular situation or a viewpoint and all, it begins from there.
Yeah,
Just being courageous to stand up and own up what you believe and present it in front of so many people, or just stand by that, and then taking a decision. Maybe situations when everybody else in the family has a different viewpoint and you have a different viewpoint, but then standing onto it with full conviction that this is my reason and logic for being that, or taking that particular decision. So it's, in a small way, it's beginning from there. But in this journey of being your own true core self and knowing who you truly are, that's an amazing journey. Which I would want to mention is that what happened, or I will share with my experience, is when I'm growing up, I'm growing up, but very unconsciously, not knowing how others are impacting me. So I become something which is expected out of me,
right.
and and being totally oblivious about it. And at a certain point, when we realize that there's something within me which will say, which is not contented, which is not complete, which is not really happy. And when I find what makes me, then I know what is my core self. Okay, and knowing that it may be so much different from what you are presently. I may be in a corporate place in a very senior position, but it may not be my true core self, my true core. So coming into that awareness and then believing it, I mean, that itself is a very courageous journey. To own that up, to believe that, and to see that that's it, this is not what it is. But something inside, as if there's a compass inside, that shows that this is what you are. And your core selfie process is a really amazing tool to get to that place. Subsequently, I feel the next step of the biggest step of the courageousness would be, not facing the world is one step of the courageousness. The second step, and more important, and I would say it takes more degree of courage, is to accept that how much different I have become, or how much it needs for me to drop, to change, to be what I am truly. And that process, it's easy to say this in the words, that we drop the layers of it, but only the one who goes through it knows what it means. It really means like peeling your skin. It's even deeper than that. It's peeling something from within. So it's and then there are moments of, when this is happening, there are moments of deep pain, deep anguish. uh, you are upsetting some people, or you are sometimes very nervous within yourself. Am I doing it right? Is it, you get into the doubt zone. So all that fluctuation which goes on, it does take courage to bounce back and be your normal. So I believe that's the huge space. One last thing I would want to add into this is that what I feel is that deep down, the core is very divine. And so the layers which have come up over ourselves, to drop them, and then being in the world, being on an earthly existence and drop them, is I mean, the way out I see is, at a certain point, there are two planes on which I start operating. One plane, which is a plane of the earth. So you have to have interactions, you have to have food, you have to have connection. And there's another plane which actually takes a very deeper connect with the whole universe. And that's more very abstract, intangible, unexplainable kind of a plane. And shifting between the two planes becomes even more. Sometimes you wonder, are you going crazy? Are you going mad, or are you having some psychological issue? And uh, that's also a very different space and takes a lot of courage. Um, that's all I would say about this. Thanks.
Well, yeah, thank you for your insights. Thank you for your articulated journey, because the word that I used as I was going through it, and sometimes still do, not very much recently, but especially when I was kind of transitioning from my quote old self, or my conditioned program self earlier in life, to my core self, to my natural innate divine self. It was gut wrenching. It grabbed me by the guts inside of me, and it was like, dear God, please give me strength to keep going, or dear God, you know, let me go back to my old self.
Absolutely, Peter. I fully agree with you.
And
Absolutely.
it is. It's here's the payoff. Okay, so yeah, there's gut wrenching moments and days and weeks that I went through, and not so much anymore. But here's the upside of all of that for everybody that's kind of listening in on this and say, oh, great, Peter, that's what I need. I need more gut wrenching crap going on in my body right now. Here's the payoff. The payoff is an absolute sense of, dear God, I am so humble, I am so thankful, I am so blessed that you made me to be me, that I am here on the planet to do the work that I am here to do, to give me the power, to give me the tools, to give me the strengths, to give me the insights, to give me the mind to be able to fulfill my destiny, my journey, my purpose in life. I think every human being that has one iota of consciousness goes through the process of asking at some point, who am I? Why am I here? How does my life make a difference to anybody around? Because right now it doesn't seem like it. And I've gone through all of those things earlier in life. And the payoff is you have been blessed. You are blessed now. You have the same innate magnificence that was, I call it endowed. I didn't earn it. I didn't, I can develop it, but I didn't earn it. I didn't have to do something to be, quote, worthy enough to be me. My Creator endowed that to me at birth, or maybe before birth. It's still there right now in this very moment as you're listening to my voice. It'll be there until you die, and maybe afterwards. I don't know about the before and after birth and death, but in this lifetime, it's still there. Nobody can eradicate that. Nobody can extract that from you. They can shelter it. They can put a barrier around that with their expectations. But nobody can touch that pureness of heart, pureness of spirit, pureness of the divine that is inside of, I believe, every single one of my human brothers and sisters around the world, regardless of age, regardless of religion, regardless of color, regardless of anything. You are innately created being. That's my strongest belief and realization in my lifetime. Now, it is not pinpointed to one role in life that you get to be yourself. What I'm talking about in terms of core self shows up as a sibling, shows up as a parent, shows up as a worker, shows up as whatever particular profession that you might be in. And it's not just, okay, I have to find the right job in order for me to be my true self. I don't believe that. I believe that I can be my true self in my relationship, my primary relationship. I can be that. I can be my true self in my relationships with my siblings. I could be my true self in the remembrance of being a child of my two beautiful parents. I can do that in my work as a coach. I can do that as a coach trainer, and on and on and on. And I can do it at all stages of life too, by the way. Okay, so it doesn't have an expiration date. Okay, so now you're retired, you can't be yourself now. I don't believe that either. And that it is a glorious feeling of I am here, I am doing my life's work, I am utilizing the natural gifts and talents that has been endowed to me. Again, I've developed them, thank you, yes, I'll take credit for that piece of it. But they were there at birth. Again, and there was no cost to it, there was no charge, there was no waiting for Amazon to deliver it to me. It was already delivered at birth, right? My natural gifts and talents. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Buddha. Thank you, Muhammad. Again, whatever your faith tradition might be, it's divine, however you define that. Yeah. Charles, you've got something written in the chat box here. You want to read this out for us and elaborate on that or pontificate on that? Is Charles still with us?
Yes, I'm coming. Hold on, darling.
There he is.
So I just put some resources for love, love, the Love Center, the Love Foundation, our daily newsletters this month are all about love and forgiveness, and that's pretty cool stuff. But I want to share the insights. It's like I didn't really resonate when you first asked about courageousness. I did experience a few in the 60s, when the Vietnam War came along, but I'm saving that for the 7-figure book advance, to tell that story.
Okay, good.
I thought maybe I was being stubborn. I resigned from a civil service position 3 times because I felt called to move to a spiritually centered, intentional community that was focusing on empowering succeeding generations. And I had children 1 and 6, and that was a priority for their mother and me. And turned down a $250,000 HUD scholarship because they would have required me to renege on some events that I'd committed to with organizations that I'd founded with Mark Victor Hansen and Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy, people that I kind of thought I might want to maintain a relationship with more. So I've kind of asked myself frequently, what in the hell was I thinking? And that one of our little entities has turned down 500,000 from one potential investor, up to 20 million from another, because we just didn't feel that energy. We didn't feel like they had done the core selfie work. And a couple of individuals I'm talking about. So yeah, that was courageous. I mean, we're still bootstrapping as a result of turning down those things. So I appreciate your raising that point of consciousness, and give myself a little pat on the back for not necessarily being a stubborn all the damn time. But where's Vivek? I mean, I can't have my regular love fest without my fellow ambassadors.
He is working his magic on the other side of the planet, right, as we speak.
Well, that's needed.
Yeah. Yeah, the part of the courageousness is making tough decisions. Are they aligned with who I am and what I know my contribution is and who I need to be, or are they asking me to be somebody other than who I was created to be? And sometimes
imagine a mother who had seen me go from high school dropout, given me the power of positive thinking at the age of 16, praying something would get through to her wayward son, unlike the National Honor Society students, my 3 older siblings. And, she kept, what are you doing? Why would you do that? And then she finally got around when she saw the children and the influence that intentional community had on them. She said, okay, I guess you made the right choice there.
Yeah.
Courage, she was a major influence in my life.
Well, I want to build on that theme because parents want the best for their kids. They just do. I don't believe any parent, educated or not educated, whatever, that come from an abused home or not coming from an abused home. No parent consciously wakes up in the morning and says, okay, so how can we screw up our kids today? I just don't get it. They want to protect us. They want to protect us from what maybe they experienced growing up. And their decision making around that is flavored, if you will, colored by the fact of we need to have, come hell or high water, Peter's going to get a higher education, whether he wants it or not. That came from a place of love from my mom and dad. They had an amazing propensity and love for education, which I did not understand as a poor student. my grade school days and my high school days, I struggled. I had a hard time reading. I was probably 4 or 5 grade levels retarded, if you will, when it came to reading, and especially if it was reading out loud in the classroom. I don't know why, but it just panicked me, and I shut down. So parents, I think, want the best for their kids. They do. And they have a way that it looks like this. Or it includes this, this, and this. And so when the child starts to rebel, the child starts to say, that's not for me, Mom. That's not for me, Dad. I have other ideas. They try to convince you otherwise because I think there's, a parent DNA that gets triggered and says, no, we know better for you, which my parents always told me up until the time I was about 25. Peter, we know better than you, right? We're old. And I took that at face value, up until the time I was probably 18. That, yeah, Mom and Dad probably know better than me. They have 20 years more experience than I do of life, or 22 years more experience of life. At some point in time, that doesn't serve. And you can join a new societal group. Sometimes it's in the form of a church. Sometimes it's in the form of an ideology. Sometimes it's in the form of a political activism. Sometimes it's in the form of, I just have to do this. I'm just driven at some deep level. I can't explain why, but I have to do this. Those aren't all bad, by the way. What my calling is all about is to challenge that and say, is this coming from a new conditioning or a new external source? Is this coming from a new family, if you will, with their own ideologies, and this is the way you're supposed to live life, this is the way you're supposed to think, this is what you're supposed to do? Or is it coming from the inside of that divine spark, the heart of who you really are? That's where the real courageousness comes in, I believe. And I've experienced going through that whole process I've described several times. So my issue is not, okay, so there's a new external gang, there's a new external in-group that I want to be a part of, and therefore I need to look and act like they do and have the same ideas and follow the same ideologies. Or are they coming from a place of divine, are they divinely inspired? And again, not divinely inspired by somebody else, but from deep inside of myself. Am I being true to that? Or how do I become true to that? And again, this is a courageous journey. I keep talking about this is a courageous journey because the outside world has a continuous bombardment of how I'm supposed to do life, even till today. You know, politically, medically, COVID, here's how you're supposed to do it. And there's more than one viewpoint on all of those things. Have you noticed? Even when I don't listen to the news, it gets through, YouTube ads or other things. So the idea here is being true to oneself. And I use self with a capital S, not little self, not human self, but divine self. That is wanting to be heard, that is wanting to be honored, that is wanting to be developed and nurtured and given a space to, again, it sounds so trite when I'm hearing myself, is to be yourself, to be your big capital S spiritual divine self. And if that sounds obtuse, then I encourage you, it was referred to earlier by Arshna, that go back to CoreSELFtech.com, www.CoreSELFtech.com. I don't tell you how you have to be. I don't tell you how you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to do with your life. It is all self-generated. It's going to be your words that you access from deep inside of you, from that voice that wants to be heard, that is behind the enemy lines of here's how you're supposed to be. And allow that voice to come out through those processes. The validation process, the same thing. I don't tell you, yep, you got it. No, you didn't get it. You'll figure that out for yourself, again, going through those processes. It came through me, not from me. And then you can make a choice. Yes, I'm going to be this way. I'm not going to be this way. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do this. This is an alignment. This brings me deep, personal, divine joy from deep down inside of me. This one doesn't. You can decide all of that. I don't tell you how to live your life. What I'm here to do is just say that it's like the every seed on the planet has within it the means to duplicate itself. And only a little tiny piece of what's inside that seed is the DNA that germinates to become a pine tree, to become a bean plant, to become a rose, to become a whatever it is, again, a core self within it. The rest of the seed is the nurturing ingredients that are necessary to start its life. So there's food inside of that seed. Every seed has this. Okay, so this is not rocket science. The same thing is my purpose of being here on the planet is to say, you have that seed within you. It has always been there. It is there now. Regardless of whether you've been honoring it or not honoring it, feeding it, not feeding it, developing it, not developing it, that seed is there and it will always be inside of you. And that's the divine spark that I'm talking about. That's the divine part of you that may or may not have been nurtured, may or may not be honored, may or may not even be known now because it's just covered with layers of, here's who you're supposed to be. We want you to be a oak tree. We don't give a damn whether we come from a bean family. We want you to be an oak tree. And to be an oak tree, you have to do this. You have to be honored. You have to be educated this way. You have to get married this way. You have to have 2.3 kids. You have to live in the suburbs. You have to have a high-paying job. Blah, 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 blah. That's what we want you to be, big oak tree. Your seed, if you haven't been honoring it, or you don't know about it, or you haven't found it, is still inside of you. It will always be there, and it always has a voice too, by the way. And it's like, boop, this is not the this is not the journey that we had in mind for you, right? We being the divine, not your fellow classmates, not your neighbors, not your society. So that's my purpose. So I advocate at the top of my lungs, you are uniquely magnificent. You have been created to be something for someone or many someones that only you can provide to those individuals during your lifetime. The question for me, the harsh question is, are you doing that? Are you honoring that or not? Because if you're not being yourself, then you're being a duplicate of somebody else. And so you're not doing your work. Therefore, the people that are here to receive you as the support person in whatever fashion it's meant to be manifested in aren't getting it. And that's the tug of war. That's the pull of, there's got to be more to life than what I'm doing. The answer is yes, there is. And it resides back in this embryonic seed that was placed there at birth. This doesn't feel right. That goes on inside of you. The core of the self, when it is satiated, when it is being nurtured, when it is being honored, when it is being developed and shared with the rest of the planet. And the rest of the planet, by the way, in your case, might be one person. It might be a sibling that needs your support. It might be one child. It might be one organization. It might be one community. It might be one piece of ideology that is life-affirming for everyone, not just those that are blank. And when that gets honored and you are congruent or aligned with who you were created to be, there's a sense of deep, unbridled joy. Yes. I did my work today. I was true to my being. I was true to my divine being, my original self, my core self. Yeah. From YouTube, Rajita says, to be aware of who am I, and live life in alignment with core values and divinity within, unconditional self-acceptance and self-love, living life with awareness of self-worth / value in relationships. Amen. Beautifully said. Thank you, Rajita. There is a power, there is a strength, there is a huge sense of gratitude, there's a huge sense of love, there's a huge sense of thank you, dear God, for creating me and trusting me with that which you have endowed to me, inside of me. Again, without my knowing it, without me asking for it, without me earning it. I am, in many traditions I find around the world, is I am a child of God. That sense. I'm a child of the Spirit. I'm a child of the divine. I am a likeness of my divine, right? And again, I'm not talking about physicality here. I'm talking about that inner joy, that inner peace, that inner self. Stunning. I see Kari on the inner circle here. Is there anything, Kari, that you want to add to any part of this or share?
Let me unmute myself. As you're talking, I kept thinking about the fact that, it's ongoing, right? So like, do we ever get, I guess my question to you, Peter, is do we ever get there, right? Because to me, it feels like almost like a lifelong process of getting to that true self and that core self of who you're meant to be. And along the way, at least for me, there's been several moments of transformation that feels difficult, and you have that conflict, whether you're letting go of friends or setting boundaries with certain people, and then it's sort of you cruise around for a little while, and then you sort of hit something else that comes along, and there's another period of transformation. And to me it feels like a lifelong journey to get there.
That's the way that I've experienced it, Corey, is the way that you've just described it. There's the intensity along my journey might have been different, like from when I first started, quote, waking up to who I really am. And it wasn't that I was an awful person before that, by the way. It's like, my parents really screwed me up, between the ages of 0 and 37. But when I became more conscious of this concept of, am I honoring the core of who I am? And I wouldn't even been able to articulate it at that stage of life. It's just that I just feel miserable. I'm not happy. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've been educated the way I was supposed to be educated. I earned more money than I had planned to do in a lifetime by the time I was 37. But there's still something missing. So that was the driving force at that point in terms of this life transformation and understanding of who I am. But I would absolutely 100% agree with you that it's a continuous journey. And there's continuous revelations that take place, from the years I've lived since then. And I'm in it now. There's still questions I have about, am I doing the right thing here? Am I choosing the right work? Am I choosing the right avocations to bring this exact message out to the world? So I still have questions about that. So it's a continuous consciousness, and thank God that I'm still conscious about that question. And it's sometimes it's more of a struggle, and sometimes it's less of a struggle to go, yeah, no, this is clearly what I'm meant to be doing. So from that standpoint, I think it's gotten easier for me. And if someone doesn't agree with me, that's okay. I have compassion for them, and they don't need to know this, or they don't need to know it yet. There's a lot of people that I scare the hell out of. This courageous journey stuff. Oh, jeez. Whoa, mercy. I got enough problems as it is already with economics and medical and family and siblings and work, and I don't need any more grief. And I get it. I get it. But yeah, I would 100% agree that this is a lifelong journey that I would expect to do for the next 30 years of my life. I'm just reading, there's a whole bunch of comments that are coming through right now. A big yes to Rajita from Charles. Charles, I too was blessed with loving, nurturing, supportive parents who encouraged me to be my true self. However, there are millions, if not billions, of parents who seek to constrain their children and make them in their own mold, their parents' mold. Yet another reason we could bless many more by sharing the CoreSELFie.com work. Thank you. Thank you, Charles. How about developing a CoreSELFie graduation gift kit for students? Love that idea. Yeah, that's the ultimate of education. I know the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss is a huge graduation gift. It's a top-selling book of all of Dr. Seuss's myriad of books that he illustrated and published. But Oh, the Places You'll Go is number one by a landslide. Like if you add up all the other ones put together, I believe wouldn't add up to the Oh, the Places You'll Go. I just taught a class in Delhi, India, back about 10 years ago, and I always use that as part of the curriculum. And so the after story of that is I went down to the Khan market in Delhi and went to the bookstore with one of the recent grads, and she said, somebody got to this bookstore and bought that before I was able to get it. They said it just got sold yesterday. So it's like, yeah, the message here is, yeah, that's gone worldwide. It's available, everywhere. And the journey continues.
Well, the other insight I had was in the baby basket for new parents.
Yeah.
I have a little copy of this CoreSELFtech guidebook, because if those parents don't know themselves, how can they help
Amen.
children awaken? Every time I come to Tuesdays with Peters, I begin to wonder, maybe I should apply to be an ambassador for CoreSELFtech.
Well, we'll put you in charge of the gift basket idea for new parents, newlyweds, new graduates. Welcome to the planet. Here's your operating manual. All right. So what time have we got here? We've got about 8 minutes or so to go. Kari, let me come back to you and just kind of close the loop on that. Does that make sense to you, that it is a lifelong journey? It's a lifelong process for you?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Thank you.
My question back to you is, do you find it is becoming easier to be able to negotiate that journey because you do know yourself? Or maybe you know yourself better than you did 10 years ago, than you did 20 years ago, than you did 30 years ago.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. When I think back to probably the first time I had, I'll just say like an inner conflict, was probably middle school, and realizing that the people that I was surrounding myself with just didn't align with me anymore. And at the time, it was really very difficult, traumatic, and I didn't really know what was going on. It was like the first time I experienced anxiety and panic attacks. And now looking back, I really fully understand what that was all about. But at the time I was in it, I had no idea. So I think the more aware you are and the more clear you are about who you are, you're making those decisions very consciously. And you're also aware to those feelings inside that tell you that you're not living in alignment, which before those little triggers could be confusing and painful, but now I feel like I see them as just signals of guiding me in a direction.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautifully said. When I think back on all the different influences that I've had in my life, the first one is survival. And when parents are saying, we know better than you, then yes, yeah, and please feed me, right? Please keep a roof over my head. I mean, I wouldn't put it in that language at 5 years old, but I am dependent upon other people for my growth and survival. Later in life, it's around the survival of my social status. So middle school is classic for, cliques, and, they're the in people, they're the shiny people, they're the popular people, and I want to be part of that. I want to be accepted, and if I'm not, because I have a quirk or a personality or something about me that doesn't quote fit in, then I try to find a group that I do fit into, and it's painful. Same thing in corporate environments. It's an ecosystem of, these are the people that are smart, these are the people that are less smart, these are the people that are going to get ahead in this organization, these are the people that probably not. because we honor this, that, and the other, and you're not that. You don't have an engineering degree, sorry. You're not a male, sorry. You're not the right age, sorry. You're either too young or too old, sorry. And on and on and on. It keeps on going. So how do I have the solitude? How do I have the knowingness about what's not changing, what's not temporal? And for me, it keeps on coming back to core self. Core self doesn't change. It'll be the same at 40 years old as it was at 14 years old, and it will be the same at 104 years old. The core self of an individual, I believe, does not change. It may be manifested differently at different stages of life, but the core self is something that is, for me, the bedrock of a human being. So I think with that note, we will wrap it up for today. Happy Valentine's Day, Courageous Heart Day to all of you for today and every day this year.
Could I
And we'll
slip
see-
in one question that you might appreciate?
Yes, please.
You mentioned 14-year-old. Is there a too early age to introduce someone to CoreSELFing?
I thought it was the age of reasoning, Charles, when I first got into coaching, because parents would ask me that. They've proved me wrong vastly. They brought it back to the kids that were 7 years old and did an adaptation of core self. And kids have less baggage to work through, frankly, to get to that core self. So that's the earliest I've heard a kind of an organized core selfie exercise that kids that are 7 years old will go through and be excited about.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, God bless, be safe, namaste, everybody. See you next week. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Peter.
Bye-bye.
Bye.